We played Lollapalooza 4 years ago, and we played the BMI stage. We were the first band after I think the kids show. We were the first band to play the festival. It's
and
crazy.
I know Red Hot Chili Peppers is one of you guys.
Oh, 100%.
So are you going to stay for their set?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We did last time we were at Lollapalooza, so once again, full circle, it's...
Okay, Alan, you have a question.
So, you're the older brother
Yeah.
of a sighted brother, and I'm sure that means you have to be guided a lot of the time. I'm curious, how often, if ever, does your brother run you into things on purpose?
Oh, nah. You see, our whole thing is we fought like a couple of demons from about age, 3 or 4, through, I'd say, around... Probably our last major fights were like ages 15, 14, something like that. So I think we mostly got it out of our systems actually early on. I mean, we trashed each other like bad, like really violent, and for over stupid little things too. But yeah, you can only do that for so many years. After a while it gets old, and we just both sort of mellowed out as we got older. And I don't know. He's usually, sometimes he'll be moody, sometimes I'll be moody. We still argue and that sort of thing all the time. But I don't know, we haven't had a real, we haven't really been furious with each other in a long, long time.
You guys are a band of brothers because you're bandmates you've known for a long time.
Yeah.
Being on tour makes it a whole different ball of wax.
Last October was the first time we ever got to travel in a tour bus, and it was like a whole new experience. It is weird, though. Being on tour, you are in such a social bubble because you're with the same, in our case, same 8 or 9 people all the time, and because you're always traveling together, you're always doing things together, and it's oddly insular. It's really you have to take an effort of will to break outside of that bubble when you're on tour and go socialize, or it even takes a minute of adjusting when you're back home. You're not just in that group. You have to relearn how to interact with people that don't know your every thought.
So how do you manage all the chaos in the van and things moving around all the time? You're in different places.
I mean, when we have a bus, or back in the day when we had a van, that was easy because that's it's the same place every time. In fact, the bus is the best because then it's like a little mobile home that's your little home base you learn every inch of. We've been doing a lot of these, especially this summer because the festivals are so spread apart. A lot of these dates where we fly every day or every other day to each one, and that, the airports are fine. Airports are a pain in the ass for anybody, whether you're sighted or not. And so it's, we're all in the same boat there. Really, I'd say the trickiest part for a while was, every time the new hotel rooms and new just cities and environments. Like, a lot of times, we'll get to a new place. If we have some time, everyone will go out to dinner. And, I'll do that a lot of times, but a lot of times I'll just, chill back at the hotel room because I do not feel like learning a whole new restaurant just in order to get some grub. I'll pay the extra few dollars and get room service and, just relax. You just got to know your own personal sanity limits. You also have to learn to sort of not be afraid to be, I don't want to say selfish, that's the wrong term, but at least for me, if I do not feel like if everyone's going to explore and going to go sightseeing and that kind of thing, I feel no obligation unless I'm in that mood to go with them.
I want to know, when you're on stage and people are quiet, how do you know or sense the energy in the audience?
It's even sometimes tougher because we all use in-ear monitors now. So we're all wearing really intense earphones that block out all the sound and that you get your mix of the instruments and microphones through. And so depending on the stage, especially at big festivals where the audience is really far from the front of the stage, I can't hear them at all. And honestly, you just sort of have to, it sounds selfish, but you got to just sort of put on the show for yourself. You just got to rock out and do your thing, no matter if there's 0 people in the room or 10,000. You got to play music for the sheer joy of playing music. We've been a band now for almost 10 years, and me and my brother, played in bands even before that, but we played a lot of shows where you're playing to the other bands that are playing the show, or, maybe there's the 2 guys drinking at the bar, that kind of thing. And our first college gig, man, we were so stoked because it was our highest paying gig we'd ever gotten. And we literally ended up playing the Rec Room it started out, we played to the promoter and some guy playing pinball The promoter left halfway through the first song, and then the pinball guy left after the first couple. It was to the point where we were sort of, after a song, we stopped and we were like, should we keep playing at this point? And we ended up treating it just as like a paid rehearsal, pretty much.
Yeah, so you get all your cues on stage then through the earbuds. Right?
Yeah.
They tell you which way to face and...
Basically, I'm lucky because I play keyboards, so I pretty much am locked into one place on stage. I mean, I jump around a lot behind them, but they're sort of always an anchor whenever I'll be flailing around doing whatever, but I always got to face the keyboards again the right way in order to be able to play them. But yeah, I mean, most of the cues we all know the various songs, and we've worked out little interludes and that sort of thing between the songs. And then, of course, I can hear everyone through I can hear Sam, on his lead vocals, I can hear the drums, I can hear the guitars through my ears. We know our songs and we know the way each other play and perform well enough at this point. Even if something goes wrong during the set and somehow it ends up, not flowing perfectly, we all generally know exactly where we are in relation to each other musically at all times on the stage. And I think that just comes from having done it for so many years with each other.
Do you have perfect pitch?
No, I wish.
How do you learn music then?
But just by ear. You don't have to have perfect pitch to learn it. I mean, the way I learned how to play piano was actually, my piano teacher would have me bring in recordings of songs that I liked and would teach me how to pick them out by ear, how to listen to the tape, pick out the few notes, rewind it, you make sure those few notes are correct. This is back in the days of tape players and that kind of thing. But it's even easier now with digital things. You can just slow everything down to half speed without it even affecting the pitch of it, and just be able to learn it with ease. But that was really how I learned it. As long as you got good relative pitch, as long as once you hear a note, you can sing any note relative to it, or play if you don't have any sort of voice. Most people can develop really good relative pitch. It's just a matter of practicing. Perfect pitch is one of those things that I feel like you can maybe develop if you really work at it for years and years, but it's mostly just either you have it or you don't. But the relative pitch, you can definitely develop. That's just a matter of ear training.
I have a mom question,
sure.
Casey.
Yeah,
so,
totally.
if your moms want to protect their kids. So if you could give advice to moms of kids with blindness or visual impairment or any disability, what do you want them to know?
Oh man, you're gonna hate this, but I'd say don't protect them too much. Honestly, my mom was very she protected me, really well. I never, got cut up too badly, but she wasn't helicoptery at all, and I'm super grateful for that. She let me go off and do my thing. I had, was the king of the butterfly Band-Aids on my forehead through most of my childhood, but I don't regret a single scar. Besides, I can now open beer bottles with my forehead. Man, there's this one place on my right eyebrow. I must lead with my right eyebrow because I've hit this exact same place probably 10 or 15 times.
Yeah, so when the women are coming at you on the stage, how do you know which one you want to go to and pay attention
to? Unfortunately, my secret may be a little disappointing. I have a girlfriend who I've been dating for now 3.5 years, who I met at a really terrible little show before we were anybody. So she stuck with me through the bad times, even now, I don't think she has seen very many really good shows of ours, because the ratio of bad shows to good shows we played back in the day was so high. And, so she was a trooper. She'd come along to all of them.
Their album is called VHS, and it's about the coolest sort of format I've ever seen. First of all, it's 20 tracks. They've got a lot of interludes. So can you talk about those?
We grew up listening to, honestly, a lot of rock music, but also a lot of, like 90s hip-hop and R&B. And a lot of hip-hop and R&B records have these like skits or interludes in between the songs that kind of tie it all together. And they're usually pretty funny and kind of, poignant. They sort of make the album flow as a whole. They make it a story, and we really love that. And there hadn't been, honestly, much of that in rock music since like the days of Pink Floyd and the concept albums and that kind of thing. Like there hadn't really been anything rock-wise in the 90s or beyond that flowed as a whole album where you wanted to listen to it from start to finish. And we wanted to do something like that. And we were sort of thinking about what sort of skits we'd want to put in there, and really realizing that the album's about basically how we grew up and formed a band and that kind of thing. And so it just sort of made sense that we'd find audio clips of us as youngsters and as young adults and that kind of thing. And we mostly found them on old VHS home videotapes, which is how we got the name for it. But that was a blast too, going through all those old tapes. We had some moments where we were just like crapping our pants laughing. It was amazing.
Well, I want to know who is the person in Unconsolable. Who is that? Is that like some
So my brother writes all the lyrics, so I can only guess at his motivations behind them. But As for that song, I would guess that, I mean, having heard him talk about it before in other interviews, it's really, that's Unconsolable is one of our oldest songs that we still play, and that was pretty much right after he moved to New York City out of Ithaca, and it was really sort of about the end of like high school in Ithaca, just all the sort of, you knew you were getting out of there, you were pretty much done, the kind of, I don't want to say, it wasn't apathy, but kind of just like you're out partying all the time just for the sake of it, not really because you loving it or whatnot. It's hard to describe, but it's kind of that end of high school ennui, I guess. Just what it's like to be, a teenager in a small town kind of thing.
Well, now you get to go back and give back.
We got to go back actually in May. We played our first headlining show there since we were kids, and it was at the State Theater, which is the biggest theater there that we saw all of our favorite bands roll through when we were kids, and it was amazing.
So we're doing a webinar with the School of Piano Technology, and so we're trying to work with them on how we could put a hip factor in the piano tuning profession.
That's tricky, because really it's all about the people doing it. You just got to tune pianos with swagger. I think especially for blind and visually impaired people, it's like the best job, because you can either work like I did for a piano store, have one location that you stay at, and it's just like you go into work in the morning, you crank out some pianos. I also, I did repairs and stuff, so I'd bust out my either NPR or my book on tape while I was repairing pianos. It's just like a very actually surprisingly relaxing job. Also, if you want to make more money and you don't want to be the store drudge, you can set up your own business as a piano tuner. Probably easier than a plumber even, because there's so few piano tuners out there. All you got to start doing is just spreading the word about yourself that you tune pianos, and lo and behold, everyone and his brother has this old upright in their house that they haven't had tuned in years, but they'd love to still be able to play on it. And next thing you know, you got a client base. So it's really, it's the kind of job that you can make your own. It's like learning, any sort of vocation like plumbing or electrical engineering. It's a really useful skill that you can actually make a lot of money off of without having to do necessarily your classic 9-to-5 work schedule, which I think is one of the biggest advantages. That's why I was able to be a musician, basically, as I worked at the piano store 3 or 4 days a week to pay the bills, and was able to use the rest of the time just to play music.